Hi, this is Anvi Prabhu. Welcome to my studio. I'm an artist from Bangalore, India, and I'm currently living and working here in London, UK. If I have to talk about one thing that I am really keen on capturing in my works at this point in time, is a sense of stillness, which is really strange given that I mainly come from a performing and dance background. I have spent the majority of my life pursuing meaning, beauty, and spirituality through the medium of dance. So, when I did take up fine art as my choice of study during my degree, it was mainly, to be honest, to give myself more time for dancing. Because at that time I was already dancing professionally and I was teaching and performing and traveling quite a lot. But as I delved deeper into the fine art study, I somehow instinctively knew that this was not just going to end up as a degree or as a temporary, stop on my journey, but rather as a lifelong curiosity. And I guess because of my main background with dancing and performing and theatre, most of my works have a sense of theatricality within them. So it is a kind of paradox where, on the one hand, I am seeking stillness, and on the other, there is a sense of theatricality. I guess what I basically mean by stillness is not necessarily a lack of movement within my works, but rather a sense of a feeling of rest, a feeling of conveying that sense of rest to the viewers, even if there is chaos within the composition itself and in the way that I have arranged the elements of the work. So it's not a literal, but rather a metaphorical search for calmness, for groundedness, and a sense of deep ease. The narrative element is almost always there. So I use figuration and abstraction in equal measure, and I think it's fair to say that. And again, with figuration and abstraction, I tend to define them more broadly as encompassing, like, not just the literal meaning, but also like a wider connotation. So it could be figuration and abstraction within the themes, within the titles of my works, even. I would say, as a visual artist, my main practice is with drawing and painting. Occasionally, I do look at mixed media installations, multimedia installations, and I love the energy that it gives me, both within the works and also in the process itself. But somehow I always find myself coming back to the two-dimensional possibilities of visual language and visual expression. I am usually working on multiple series and concepts at a time, and of course with multiple art forms. I write a lot of poetry and prose pieces. I practice theatre and acting. I also teach occasionally, and I have a very deep love for studying philosophy as well. So to me, these multiple practices and multiple series and concepts, it's all like it's all like playing a hopscotch game. They're all separate, yet to me, they become like a coherent whole. And for me, it's like a really, really fun game. And I also find it really impossible to work on a single thing for long stretches of time. It basically, it automatically leads me to so many branches within that particular thing that I'm working on, and even towards opposing ideas, which are all worthy of deeper exploration. Talking about the concepts, broadly speaking, I look at the performativity within everyday life, the politics of everyday human life and human emotions. I'm really interested in personal stories of how all of our individual philosophies clash with the external societal structures, and how and where we all find and create our own safe spaces. And within this broad theme, I look at the layers of childhood, nostalgia, queerness, memory, identity, and the philosophies of reincarnation and rebirth, and also at the deeper concepts of space, time, and death. In terms of process, I usually fall back on a huge, ever-growing collection of photographs, found photographs, anonymous photographs, and images. And what I do is I take elements from all of these and I arrange them together. I also fall back on a lot of sketches that I do. either in public or self-portraits that I do when I photograph myself and then I do a study. I also fall back a lot on master drawings and master studies. So one of my series is actually a collage of these master drawings taken from different time periods and cultures and put together. So I don't change any of the characters and the figures, I just mishmash them together. And because they are all from different time periods and cultures, it's when I put these disparate elements together, it automatically gives rise to a whole new different, narrative possibility. I think it's one of my oldest series that I've been creating and working on since almost like the past 10 years. Another series is called Beings of Mist, and it's more to do with the literal performing experience of a performer. I look at the different layers of a performer, the physical body, the emotional body, and the mental states, and also the spiritual states. I look at the different stages that a performer might encounter in their journey, the anxieties, the euphoria, the joys, and the need for pauses, both physically and internally. One of the reasons I personally moved away from dancing full time was to do with my own frustration with the human body. Somehow using my body as the medium of art felt limiting in a sense to me personally. And so with this painting series, what I do is I completely morph the human body into beings that almost like flow like mist, like water, which so in a way, they are not restricted by technique or like not restricted by their very own form. I also love thinking and going down the rabbit hole of the concepts of time and space. Because I deal with time and space quite literally within my art forms, like in different ways, it is interesting to see the observations that pop up in the visual language. So I'm interested in how time and space can be manipulated and how they are actually experienced through our embodied selves, as opposed to how they might be for somebody who is unembodied. I also think about our bodies and the immediate space around us, how these immediate spaces can become really intense experiences in themselves without any need for further philosophical reasoning. And I guess in that sense, they become political without striving to become political or even wanting to be political. We live in a highly stimulated world, and in the fast pace, we do miss out on the ordinary things. So I started looking at these ordinary details of our lives, whether they be objects or whether they be moments, moments that are away from our screens and mobile phones and, the digital world basically. And I really liked the idea of turning these seemingly simple things into extraordinary, almost mythical things. And this is something that I'm trying to portray in another series called as Gracelands, where I really am eager to try and depoliticize the different aspects of our lives. I wonder often about the artist's responsibility and an artist's role in society today, because unlike the past, we, as far as I see, we are not burdened by recording our time for the future generation, because there are heaps of other more detailed instruments to do so. I mean, we can question the veracity within them as well, but that's like a totally different tangent. But that doesn't mean that we don't talk about societal and, political aspects, because many artists obviously do. We interpret them and we analyze them. And also with the rise of artificial intelligence, many things fall into question for artists. I find myself going back again and again to, trying and capturing the pre-digital era. I really feel fortunate that I got my first cell phone when I was like 18 or 19, and I had a childhood that was free from the toxicity of the digitization of, everyday life and of childhood and of relationships. Not that getting a mobile phone and a computer later in life has, reduced its impact on my own life at this point. It has not. But I have this huge sense of nostalgia for that pre-digital time that I experienced. And I'm specifically really keen to, capture that sense of how we all thought of ourselves, how we all thought of our relationships with each other, especially as young women, because we are not constantly conditioned by these so-called perfect images that we see online. One of the series that I am working on is called Sweet Baby Gods, and this series actually deals with this pre-digital nostalgia of mine, and it specifically looks at the experience of adolescent girls. And this teenage and adolescence is like a very wonderful time, also one of the most anxious times as well. And I look at that particular age and how that experience was. In terms of my process, I do spend a lot of time making like rough sketches and studies and all of that. But once I begin work on the main canvas, I just let my instinct take over. A lot of elements that work in a sketch might not work on the main canvas, and I have practiced letting that go. So there is this huge space that I open up for the unexpected elements to come up as well. For me, my sketchbooks constitute a very vital and essential part of my practice. I consider every drawing that I do, even if it is a rough sketch, even if it is a study for some other larger painting, I consider each one to be like a main complete work in itself. And I find that it helps me to, really get into the details and the nitty-gritty of every single composition and every single element that I want to use to develop my visual language. In fact, I actually feel more nervous in front of a empty sketchbook page, much more than what I feel in front of like a large scale canvas. In literature, there is this practice called stream of consciousness, where you don't have a preconceived idea about the plot or the character or even what exactly you're going to write. You just go with the flow and you write the words that come naturally to you. That's one practice that I have adapted into my visual arts as well. So I use my stream of consciousness to just draw whatever I feel like drawing at that particular moment without any preconceived ideas about what exactly I want to achieve within a particular work. And I find that very, very exhilarating and very, very freeing, in fact. I was really keen to look at how I can blur the boundary between fine art and the business aspect of it. And so I launched Studio Violet, which is a London-based luxury fine art brand through which I sell some of the selected original paintings, really high quality fine art prints, and I also take commissions. I have linked the website down below in the description box, so if you're interested, please do have a look at that as well. To me, art is like an adventure, and it's also a balm to the soul and to the mind. Art is the way through which I understand life the best way possible. It's the way through which I experience life in the most intense way possible. And I guess it is a path to finding and understanding myself at the end of the day, and sharing that with everybody else. Art is a beautiful way to bring your past, your present, and your future into one single point of stillness. And to me, it is in that point of stillness where my sense of peace and my sense of joy lies.